Hi, welcome to the second installment of this webinar on mission. This time we will have it about mission on women, for women, and with women. We are live here at the Archbishop's residence at the Good Shepherd Chapel for this Facebook Live webinar. I am Father Francis.
This is Julma. Good evening, Father. Good evening to everyone watching us and joining us in this webinar. So for tonight, our webinar has two parts. As in the previous webinar that we've had, the first part will be an interview with women on social development, and the second part will be the webinar proper. So Father Francis, we have a very interesting mix of guests for the first part.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear their stories. And as you know, stories are very powerful tools for, across time and space. It can literally transport you to the different experiences of people. And you know what's amazing, Julma, about stories is that they can inspire people. They can motivate change in the world. So I can't wait to hear the stories of these exemplary women.
Yes, what's more special is that we hear them from the ladies themselves, the women themselves, who will share their journey from way back until now. And actually, when we were selecting who will be the guests, we were hoping that the first part will be able to inspire our followers, our audience, to find more ways how we can respond to the needs of the women's sector.
Yeah, I think that's a sector that we need to address right now. And the church, I think, is very keen on addressing this as part of its mission. Let's take one step backwards a little bit. We are still on our way. This is our way of celebrating the 500 years of Christianity in the Philippines. And on this last leg of the celebration, we have this Missio ad Gentes. And so the church recalls and would like to refresh once again its mission on the different sectors of our society, and this time on women. Julma.
Yes, what I find very interesting is, remember we were discussing just a few minutes ago, that the population of the 111 Filipinos, 49% is women. You have 54 million women and 55 men. Wow. So with almost equal number, we really have to look into this sector. Yeah. But what is interesting was when I looked at the participation in the labor force, 54% are men while 34% are women. So it made me wonder, how else can women actually participate?
Yeah. Yeah, so you have all the statistics there. There are also studies which show us that those women who are involved in micro entrepreneurs, I think a lot of them are also women. I do not know if we have the exact statistics on that, but it's very interesting how we can affect change from the grassroots and then going up.
Yes, that's true. I think that's how we answer to the gap, because most micro entrepreneurs are actually women.
Wow.
So there goes our intro. Now let's go to our guests. So let's get to know more about our guests. We were talking about the women's sector, the micro entrepreneurs and their journey. Now let's talk to our guests and listen to their stories as well, Father.
Okay, so initially we have three guests before our main speakers. The first one is she's a nun, she's a religious, and she's also a provincial counselor in the Philippines for their congregation, the religious of the Good Shepherd. And she is no other than Sister Arabella C. Balingao, RGS. Sister, thank you for joining us. Good evening.
Good evening, Father, and thank you for the invitation.
I've heard you worked here in Bicol region for quite some time. Would you like to greet also the Bicolanos whom you work with for quite a time?
Maray nga banggi, mga tugang nga nasa Bicol, sa Legazpi, sa Naga, sa Buhi.
Sa Buhi.
Ito po yung mga places where I was assigned.
Okay.
Although in Naga, I was visiting once in a while.
Hi, sister.
Yes, good evening.
Okay. I was just wondering, sister, what is exactly RGS?
RGS
Yes.
stands for Religious of the Good Shepherd.
And what is the charism, sister? May we know, please?
The charism of the Religious of the Good Shepherd is of mercy and reconciliation.
Wow. Why did you choose that congregation, sister?
In fact, I don't know how it's quite a long story, but God led my way to the RGS because as a student, I was in Baguio studying, and I was invited to be part of the Good Shepherd. If you are familiar with the Ubija, that is a Mountain Meat Training Center. So God led my way there, and from there I was also, I work in one of the schools here in Quezon City. And I suppose those are divine interventions that make me really believe that I was called to the Religious of the Good Shepherd.
Wow.
But you were assigned here in Naga, sister. Was there a time that you were here?
I was there as part of the, not really assigned, but at the time I was in Buhi, Camarines Sur,
I see.
and also in Legazpi.
Okay.
Many activities happened in Naga when we were in Buhi because of the school. So many times we are in Naga. So I'm very familiar with Naga.
I see. Thank you for that, sister. You see, I asked that because our next guest is Miss Bianca Camille B. Armenal.
Yes po.
I'm sorry. Miss Bianca, are you around?
Good evening po. Good evening po.
Yes, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Hi. You see, I was asking Sister Arabella about the RGS because from what I've heard, your paths have crossed before with the RGS?
Yes po. Nagstay po ako sa Good Shepherd Home run by the Religious of the Good Shepherd for 11 years.
I see.
Is it here in Naga City?
Yes po. Sa Naga po. Hablon Dawani.
Oh, Hablon Dawani. So katayid kang the old shrine of Our Lady of Peña Francia. Okay, so
Yes po.
so currently you are the project you're a project development officer too of the Department of Social Welfare and Development.
Yes.
What do you do right now as a project development officer? What exactly do you do?
Aside po kami sa program ng DSWD, yung Pantawid Pamilyang Filipino Program.
Okay.
I am a case manager, social worker. So kami po yung nag-handle ng mga Pantawid beneficiaries sa Naga City.
Wow. So you're directly in contact with these people, mga tao.
Yes po.
How often do you get to see them? How often do you get to meet them? Is it an everyday basis, or is it something that is like periodical?
Monthly po. Meron
Monthly.
kasi kaming family development session monthly. So monthly po nami-meet namin yung mga mother through meeting, and may mga session din po na ginagawa para sa aming mga beneficiary sa Pantawid.
Okay. So it's popularly known as the four
The four
Ps.
Ps, yes.
For
Okay.
peace. Yes po.
Okay. Exactly what area are you assigned? Saan kang area naka-assign?
Assigned po ako sa anong na barangay dito sa Naga. Barangay Tabuco, Lerma, Igualdad, San Isidro, Dayangdang, and Sabang. So ako po yung nag-handle ng pantawid beneficiary sa 6 na barangay.
Okay.
Miss Bianca, I would just like to ask, did your experience with Hablon Dawani influence you in your chosen field?
Yes po.
Yeah, how did it influence your decision to be a registered social worker?
Nakilala ko kasi ang Good Shepherd Home or ni-refer ako sa Good Shepherd Home ng isang pamilya. Actually, may pari din si Miss Nelly Lilio. So, ang anak niya ay isang pari din sa Archdiocese of Caceres. Ni-refer nila ako sa Hablon Dawani year 2004. Noong time kasi na yun, may pinagdaanan ako na crisis or hindi magandang experience with my family. So, yung Hablon Dawan, nag-take good care sa akin or tumulong para makita ko yung bagong pag-asa sa buhay. Nakita ko kung paano nila binabago yung buhay ng mga bata na nasa pangangalaga nila. Kaya sabi ko, one day, gusto ko na maging katulad sa kanila. Yung pinakamalapit na profession dun sa mission ng Good Shepherd Home is social work. So, nag-decide ako na mag-take ng social work sa USI. And thankful naman at nakatapos ako ay naging social worker.
Okay, so we can see from here, at least from this initial interview with these two women, that they can make significant changes in our society. So let's listen from another sector, this time from the Academe, another representative of our courageous women. So our third guest for tonight, we have the President of the University of Nueva Caceres, Dr. Fay Lea Patria Lauraya. Good evening, ma'am. Nakamute. I think you're muted right now.
Mami, okay. We can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy birthday. I heard you just had your birthday, Dr. Fay.
Oh, really?
We were talking, Dr. Fay, earlier, Miss Bianca was saying that her experience with the RGS influenced her to, go into social work. What about you, Dr. Fay? What made you decide to go into the Academe?
It was not a dream at first. So I would say that how we are shaped, I'd like to quote Rick Warren's book on a purpose-driven life. The Lord gives us opportunities and we meet people that shape our decisions where we are. I come from an education, my parents are both educators. My mother and father both are teachers. But at first, I never dreamed that I will become a teacher. But just as I said, I was placed in a circumstances where I was drawn into it.
Okay. Dr. Fay, in your years in the Academe, how would you describe now how our academic institutions, how our educational institution provide opportunities to young women so that they may develop to their full potential?
We really, when we craft curricular programs and co-curricular experience, we really do not design them specifically for man or woman, but we develop a holistic approach for a person. And so we say that we develop the basic foundation for them to succeed in life, build character, create opportunities, and create experiences so that they themselves will be able to discover their passion, what are their interests, that would lead them to identify what is my meaning and purpose in life. So we create those experiences in the school, and as I said, our journey is shaped by those experiences, both inside and outside the classroom. And eventually, you discover what you are meant to do, what you are meant, where you are meant to serve.
Okay. Dr. Fay, I understand that's the dream of every educational institution to provide holistic opportunities. But personally speaking, did you meet any peculiar challenges as a woman, for example, as you try to manage your way through the educational institution or the whole system in our country?
Let me elaborate further on the first question. How did I become an educator? And I go through the struggles and journeys. How I got here, Father Francis. First, as I said, I come from an educator family. Both my parents, mother and father, were educators. However, my father, when I was 7 years old, he was supposed to go to the US, but during the physical examination as a requirement for the scholarship, he found out that he had liver cancer, and he died just 3 months from the diagnosis. So my mother single-handedly raised 6 children, and from that 6 children, I'm the 5th in the family. My eldest brother then was just 15 years old, and sister, Father Francis, my 2 elder brothers were all in the seminary at that time. SBD, Christ the King Seminary there in Quezon City. So you can just imagine, they were 15 years old, and thanks be to God, there were people who sponsored their schooling. And my eldest brother spent 23 years of his priestly life in a mission in Chile, sister, and now he's back in Quezon City. So all of us, we were able to finish our education through our mother's support, and we, at a very early in life, I was given responsibility already in the family, and I think that's where I draw my independence and my quick thinking characteristic. And in college, I was able to finish because I was an academic scholar, but I had to be a working student in order to provide for my allowances. But I thought that that was normal because everybody in the family, we were all doing the same. We were all working students. And so I didn't feel that that was a disadvantage. I thought that was really normal. So these struggles, I think, Father, were important aspects in order to shape you for the greater responsibilities that you will face in life. You are being prepared. You are being prepared through the experiences and the struggles that you go through. So as an educator, I also, that kind of experience as a working student has also inspired me to create a program which we call multiple qualification program. And this multiple qualification program speaks about students able to get additional credentials over and above their diploma earlier before they graduate, so that they will be able to use it as a means and a badge to get into employment even in their second year or third year, and from that employment to be able to finance their education. Lalong-lalo na po ngayong pandemya, ang dami nating mga pamilya na had been misplaced due to the economic difficulties of the pandemic. And therefore, I would like to say that poverty should not be a reason to stop schooling. As long as you have that dream and you choose a school that we will be able to provide you that expanded opportunities, then we will together bring you to that dream, Father.
Thank you, Dr. Fay, for that. I understand from your personal experiences, you were able to translate that into this program, and you're able to provide opportunities which weren't probably available before, but right now, because you have understood very well the stories of our women most especially in the education or the academic system. So you were able to create that program. And let me get back a little bit to Sister, because not everyone would have this same opportunity. For example, just that is offered by the multiple qualification program mentioned by Dr. Fay. But there are also women who have been deprived of the basic human rights. And I think this is what RGS would stand for. So let us go back to Sister. What is precisely the advocacy and the charism of RGS when it comes to this women who were deprived of some of the basic human rights?
Yes, our congregation focuses on uplifting the dignity and situation of women and children. And in the whole world where we are, in the 72 countries, we are all founded to care for women and children, especially those who are pushed to the edge, those who are discriminated, those who are looked down, and those who are abused. So that's why this message of Doctor is also very, very inspiring, because we are journeying with all these women who may really lose hope in life because of their experience.
Sister,
And,
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Why women and children particularly? Why women and children particularly, please?
Yeah. In the olden times, we know that women and children are regarded as second-class citizens. That's even biblically speaking now. But we know that in society, many of our societies in this world really look down on women, and the inequality that we see around on people treating women is so serious that these women and children are really like the sheep that are lost. No? If you remember the story of the lost sheep, we consider these women as those who are the lost ones that the shepherd has to go and fetch and bring back to the fold. So they are also of equal dignity with the rest of creation, but they are the most neglected in many societies. So that is how we have to focus on the women and children in many of our ministries.
Sister, I understand that is the charism also of the RGS, but personally speaking, is there any particular instance wherein you have experienced, there's a story or an event that happened in your life that, you keep on going back, that keeps you inspired and gets you going every time you involve in your apostolate?
Yeah. When I was still in the formation, we were privileged to have exposure and really experience life in the grassroots. And I personally experienced and saw in my whole senses, how people, the women especially and children, are suffering in life. And I would say that I can give my whole life to be able to help these women and children. Whatever I can do to help them, I think I like to do it. And I would always find maybe inspiration knowing that these people have all the capacities in life, but they are curtailed by the system, by the situation they are in. And So for me, yung mission namin ng reconciliation, mercy, parang yun din yung nag-uudyok sa akin na hindi pwedeng itong mga ito ay basta maiwan na lang sila dyan. Lahat sana ay sama-samang magdama, magtamasa ng magandang buhay, ang buhay na masaya para sa lahat. So ito yung parang keeps me really going, that there is always hope as long as we work together for these people who are in need, especially the women and children. So yung experience ko na yun talaga, living with them in where they are. But very personal, for example, are those whom I listen to during counseling, those who come to me to ask help for direction, for yung talagang hirap na hirap sila sa buhay nila. So this gives me energy and inspiration to go on.
Sister, you were saying earlier that the women and the children are usually those neglected. May I know what do you think usually causes this neglect? Why do we consider women and children usually neglected in society?
Sa experience kasi namin, at least from those who come to us and those who are brought to our care, we say neglected because even the basic needs that a person may have, for example, even just food, no, subsistence, they are deprived so much of this. Not even to mention education. Access to education is really just nothing. And not only that, but the basic needs and even sometimes in the family, they are being used, I don't like, but it's they are being used to, let's say, to have some income for the family. So parang hindi napapakinggan, hindi na napapansin ang mga pangangailangan nila. So, if you go out of the family, parang ganun din, no? Parang hindi naman sila masyadong napapansin. So, yun yung parang nasabi ko na neglected sila.
Thank you, Sister. I'd like to ask Ms. Camille, you are working with 4Ps?
Yes po.
Oo. So, dun sa sinasabi ni Sister, does 4Ps focus on women as a sector or in general? How does 4Ps assist women?
Yung Pantawid Pamilya po kasi is family yung focus, yung family ng household. So, with both po, women and children is inaalagaan po ng programa or inaantabayan ng programa.
Ano-ano yung mga pag-antabay na ibinibigay ng programa para sa mga kababaihan at mga kabataan?
Sa Pantawid po, especially sa mga mothers na madalas na aming nakakasama during family development session, ang palagi namin pinapahintay or ibinibigay sa kanila is yung malaman nila na sila bilang mga babae o bilang mga nanay have rights that should be respected and fulfilled. Kasi madalas, yung ating mga Pantawid beneficiary, may mga experience sila na parang merong domestic violence. Ano. So yun yung pinapalakas namin sa mga mother ng mga bata na kinikater ng Pantawid. Na dapat alam nila yung rights nila bilang nanay, bilang babae, bilang tagapangalaga ng kanilang pamilya. So sa DSWD, ini-empower namin yung women na malaman nila na kayo ay may karapatan, hindi kayo dapat sinasaktan, hindi nyo dapat hinahayaan sa sarili nyo na sinasaktan or hindi kayo binibigyan ng pagkakataon na i-improve yung sarili nyo kahit pa kayo ay mga nanay na, kahit pa kayo ay kasi yung aming mga pantawid beneficiary, karamihan sa kanila ay ang mga nanay ay hindi nakapagtapos.
Mhm.
So minsan, sila yung naiiwan sa bahay at hindi sila nabibigyan ng pagkakataon na magtrabaho kasi nga ang perception, ng kanilang mga asawa is alagaan yung mga bata, yung mga anak natin. So, kami naman, binibigyan namin sila ng opportunity na magkaroon ng livelihood para makita nila yung value nila as a women, na hindi lang sila yung basta tagalaba lang, taga-alaga ng mga anak. Meron pa silang magagawa na mas, meron silang magagawa pa para sa ikauunlad ng kanilang mga sarili. Yun po.
Miss Camille, marami bang babae ang nakakaranas ng sinasabi mong domestic violence dito, most especially dito sa field na kung saan ka nagtatrabaho?
Hindi naman ganun karami. Siguro mga 30% of our beneficiary is mayroong mga domestic violence na nangyayari. Hindi lang sa mga nanay, kundi sa amin din, sa mga bata. Meron kami mga cases na abuse yung mga bata.
Mhm. Yeah. So, 30% malaki pa rin yun.
Opo, malaki pa
Hindi
din.
natin pwedeng i-neglect pa rin yung... Usually,
Yes,
ano ang... ngayong pandemic, for example, na mas na-aggravate ba? Mas lumala ba yung problemang ito? Kasi right now, karamihan ng mga babae, karamihan sa mga bata nasa bahay nila, di ba? Mas dumami ba ngayong pandemic?
Nadagdagan kasi nga dahil sa pandemic, mahaba yung panahon kasi na magkakasama sila. So, mas nagkaroon ng chance na makaranas ulit sila ng hindi maganda kasi nga mas marami yung oras na nandoon sila na magkakasama sila dahil na lockdown. So, nadagdagan yung percentage ng domestic violence.
Okay. Kasi based sa experience ko, as nasa parokya ako nag-work, may ginawa kaming quick survey when it comes to the issues ng mga young people. Isa sa lumabas itong domestic violence, and most especially yung sexual harassment. Now, how does our government deal with this? Paano to ina-address ng ating gobyerno?
Ang DSWD naman po, the Department of Social Work and Development, is may mga programs and services, may mga home institution na nag-aalaga sa mga kababaihan na nakakaranas ng iba't ibang klase ng pang-aabuso. So sa DSWD po, meron naman kaming social worker na 24/7 ready sila na mag-rescue if ever na may mga report na kailangang i-rescue yung bata o yung nanay. So nandyan po agad ang mga social worker to respond sa kanilang pangangailangan. Merong in-offer na counseling for family, individual counseling, meron din po ang department, ang DSWD. And meron din pong livelihood programs dun sa mga nanay na nasa institution po sa aming home, sa DSWD. So may mga programs and services po na ino-offer na pwede pong i-avail ng ating mga kababaihan na nakakaranas ng iba't ibang klase ng pang-aabuso.
Yeah. At this point, I'd like to go back to Dr. Fay. Dr. Fay, I'd like to ask for the point of view of an educator. Dr. Fay?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. You see, Ms. Camille was sharing about domestic violence and, the issues within the family. Now, as an educator, what do we do, what do educational institutions do when students actually go to class but are actually encountering these issues at home. How does it figure? You know, we were saying that, well, our educational institutions are actually designed to develop the youth. But what happens when they are actually encountering issues at home?
Yes. As co-parent, we treat schools as co-parents. And therefore, any emotional or hindrances for students to focus on their studies, we usually are made aware because we discover that as part of our assessment, we try to find out why is this student lagging from their academic performance. And so usually may mga hugot, di ba? May mga dinadalang problema. And so the university or any school for that matter has to have a system in order to relate to the circumstances at home. Specifically for the University of Nueva Caceres, we have, in coordination with the Human Rights Regional Commission for Human Rights, Regional Office 5, Attorney Arlene Alangco, she is also an alumna in the College of Law of the University of Nueva Caceres. Together, we have put up the Human Rights Education Center based in the university. This institution or center partnership that is based in the university engage themselves not only in the distribution of reading materials to promote the rights of women, but just recently in the celebration of the Women's Month, we have gathered students and through the help of Attorney Arlene, have discussed the Magna Carta for women, what are their rights, what are their duties as well and responsibilities as they mature from a child to adult and now as a woman. As far as nurturance of our individual students, whether they are man or woman, as long as they experience unusual circumstances that hinder their schooling, we have the guidance counseling system, we have the student relations system, plus recently we are developing the system which we call a success coach system. May mga problema kasi na hindi na-discuss sa guro o hindi na-discuss sa mga magulang, kahit sa mga peers hindi rin nila masabi. So we are developing this kind of life coaching system na sa pamamagitan nito ay magkakaroon sila ng partner in the university na saan nila marirelate itong mga experience na ito at maso-surface kung paano natin siya matutulungan. So hindi po lang siya as a pananagutan ng eskwelahan, but we are partnering with relevant government as well as private institution as a whole university approach to catch that kind of situation early on. And as I said, the journey of a student in an educational institution is to be able to bring out the best in him. And in bringing out the best in him, we also have to discover what are the difficulties and struggles that are hindering in making his potential bloom.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Fay. So we can see now that our system provides a lot of checks and helps also in addressing the different needs of the students. May I ask this controversial question, if this is controversial even in our country, but is there equal opportunity for women, most especially in the educational system or in the academe? Is there such thing as gender pay inequality, or is this something of a myth or something that is true only in developed countries? What do you think about this, Dr. Fay?
First, Brother Francis, the Philippines is one of the founding member in the promotion of the rights of women. I cannot just remember right now the Beijing women's movement. Signatory po tayo sa Pilipinas. Kaya kung ikukumpara po natin ang karapatan at awareness ng karapatan ng mga kababaihan sa Pilipinas, mas advanced po tayo kaysa sa ibang bansa. Kung pumupunta nga po tayo sa ibang Asian countries, sinasabi na napakaswerte ng mga lalaki sa Pilipinas dahil nabibigyan ng mga leadership na position. Kagaya ko, ako ay presidente ng isang university. Hindi batayan kung babae o lalaki. Subalit sa ibang bansa, difficult po ang pag-angat ng mga babae sa ladder of executive position. So sa Pilipinas, masasabi ko na kung ikukumpara po natin sa ibang bansa, maganda ang kalagayan natin. Subalit, kahit maganda na yan, hindi pa rin po ideal. Kagaya ng mga na-encuentro ni Bianca at na-encuentro ni sister. Sa akin bilang ang undergrad ko po ay ekonomiya. Ekonomiya po ang dapat na ayusin po natin. And sa ekonomiya na yan, mabibigyan po natin ng opportunity for education, mabibigyan po natin ng mas maraming pondo ang social welfare and healthcare, addressing across the population. At saka gusto ko pa rin po na sabihin na may mga paraan in order to empower our women towards creating the economic opportunities in order to be a potent force to be able to be a breadwinner in their family. Not necessarily that because they are women, but particularly because they are mothers and the welfare of their children is foremost to their hearts. I would like to cite po, Father, alam po ng lahat na bago po ako naging presidente ng University of Nueva Caceres, ako po ay 8 taon na naging presidente sa Bicol University. At bago niyan po ako ay nagturo ng entrepreneurship. At sa entrepreneurship, we would like to promote self-help and through enterprise development. Sa journey ko po yan, Father, nag-create po kami ng cooperative na tinatawag namin na Entrepreneurship Alumni Development Cooperative. Nagsumila po kami sa 12 na miyembro. Ngayon po, Father, almost 3,000 na ang members. At masasabi ko na almost 85 to 90% of that members po, Father, are women. Women who are trying to put up a small-scale business and capital opportunity through the cooperative. They are able to put up retail, service, business, and through this business, they are empowered. They recognize opportunities of how they can provide for their families, and in the process, they're being a nurturing, being a mother. They are given that opportunity to be empowered. So sa aking opinion po, Father, the rights of women can be protected kung ang usapin ay dalhin po natin sa usapin ng ekonomiya.
Thank you very much. So I think the future of the women here in the Philippines is brighter because of those things that you have shared, most especially in empowering them in self-help groups like that, in cooperatives. Thank you very much for that wonderful sharing, Dr. Fay.
Yes, Father, I'd like to go back to Sister Arabella because Dr. Fay was mentioning that to empower women, really, there should also be interventions economically. You know, to be self-reliant, there is really a need to also develop one's skills for livelihood. And Sister, in your experience with the RGS, do you also see that direction, that there is really a need for women to have livelihood skills so as to really develop them and empower them and become self-reliant?
Yes, our program in the various communities where our women and children are, we incorporate holistic program, including development of their skills. We have already some communities that are pwede sabihin natin established, such as Baguio, such as also in Bahay Pastulan, that is in Mary Ridge, in Cebu, and ito yung medyo talagang pwedeng ma-develop ng mahusay and even can whenever they will leave the Good Shepherd community, the shelter, pwede na rin silang magtayo ng kanilang sariling panghanap buhay. So, but not, hindi lang po yung para sa panghanap buhay, pero at least they will be self-reliant when they leave our shelters or our centers or our community. So we have that in most of our communities.
Sister, I'd like to
And
make
we also, may I just add that one of our priority issues is the economic justice. So this is for the whole congregation, not just in the Philippines, but this is geared toward finding ways for our women to hone their skills so that they will make use of this to really stand on their own and eventually become a big help in their community and in their own families.
Yes, Sister, I'd like to make a follow-up question with that question of Julma. I think all the speakers would agree that empowering women would mean making them self-reliant and, of course, financially and economically independent. And you were mentioning about developing skills. In your experience, most especially dito sa Bicol, Sister, ano yung mga skills na kailangan i-develop most especially sa mga babae? Here, you have a wide and a long experience here in Bicol.
When I was in Bicol, sa mga women, at that time, I can speak only at that time I was there, although we know this time they are also engaged in gardening, meron silang mga ginagawang mga handicrafts at that time. Pag sa mga bata, meron din mga para sa bata, let's say, gumagawa din sila ng mga cars, mga bracelets, yung mga yung medyo pwedeng kaya-kaya ng kanilang kakayanan. Pero sa mga women, pwede na rin silang mag-engage ng sa mga
micro-enterprises, Sister?
Yeah, yung meron sa Legazpi yung ginagawa nila para sa parang microfinance, no? So meron din silang yung farming, gardening, what they call this, yung para ma-develop din yung land, no? So, may mga ginagawa din ang mga sisters na pwede makakonect sila sa ibang agencies para matulungan din na ma-develop ang mga skills ng mga kababaihan na aming nakakasama at natutulungan.
Okay, thank you, Sister. I'd like to ask Miss Bianca. We're talking about empowering and becoming self-reliant. You know, there is this impression that for peace create dependence. What would you say to this, Miss Bianca?
Yung sinasabi na yung programa is nag-create ng dependency kasi nga, di ba may cash grant na binibigay sa bawat pamilya na beneficiary ng pantawid. Ako personally, dahil meron akong direct contact sa aming mga beneficiary, hindi ako naniniwala na the program is creating dependency. Kasi yung cash grant na binibigay ng gobyerno sa ating mga beneficiary is hindi naman sapat para mabuhay nila yung kanilang pamilya. Yung binibigay na cash grant kasi sa ating mga pantawid is pantawid lamang or pangdagdag lamang sa income ng pamilya. So may ginagawa pa din, nagtatrabaho pa din yung mga pamilya ng mga beneficiary ng pantawid. Yung nanay, yung tatay, minsan nga yung anak hindi nakakapag-aral kasi tumutulong pa din sa pagtitinda. So hindi naman talaga sila dumidepende doon sa cash grant na binibigay. Kasi yung pantawid is every 2 months lang po yung payout ng 4 fees. So every 2 months lang sila nakakakuha ng ayuda sa government. So yung sa 2 months na yon, nagtatrabaho, may income pa sila, may income din silang sarili. So parang yung pera na binibigay ng pantawid is pangdagdag lang at pangantabay para maipagpatuloy nila yung or masuportahan nila yung pag-aaral ng mga bata kasi yung cash grant is for the education of the children. Hindi naman talaga para sa pambili ng luho nila or ng kung ano man. Yun ay nakalaan for the education, pangbayad sa eskwelahan, and pambili nila ng bigas. So ang ating mga pantawid, hindi naman talaga umaasa sa gobyerno lang. No? Nagtatrabaho din sila para mabuhay yung pamilya nila. Kinailangan lang nating suportahan kasi hindi sapat yung kita ng pamilya para mapag-aral nila yung kanilang mga anak at makapaghain sila ng maayos at masustansyang pagkain para sa mga bata. So kaya nandoon yung pantawid para antabayan sila.
Thank you for that clarification, Ms. Bianca. Now, in your years with 4Ps, meron ka na bang nakita na pamilya na sinasabing parang nag-graduate na doon sa programa? Meron bang mga success stories na sa una, kailangan yung pantawid na tulong ng ating gobyerno, pero sa kalaunan, hindi na nila kailangan kasi kaya na nilang tumayo sa kanilang sariling mga paa. Meron bang ganon? At kung meron naman, ano ba yung mga ginawa nila patungo doon sa pagiging self-reliant?
Meron na po tayong mga pamilya na graduate na sa pantawid. Dahil nakita na natin or based on our assessment or sa case management na ginawa, handa na sila na wala yung tulong ng pantawid, na wala yung binibigay ng cash grant ng pantawid. Kasi nabigyan sila ng pagkakataon na mapagtapos yung kanilang mga anak. Example, yung aking beneficiary sa Sabang, nag-aral ang kanyang anak sa USI, social work, nakagraduate na siya, and ngayon ay nagtatrabaho na. So pag ganun kasi na meron ng professional, nakapagtapos na yung mga anak, and nagkaroon na ng maayos na trabaho, sila ay nire-recommend na for graduation kasi kaya nang suportahan yung pamilya para maibigay naman yung ibang yung slot sa nangangailangan pa. So, hindi sila nananatili dyan habang buhay sa pantawid. Natutulungan kasi nakakapagtapos yung mga bata. Pag nakapagtapos na, nagkakaroon ng maayos na trabaho, so, may suporta na, may naibibigay ng suporta sa pamilya. And yung mga graduate na po natin na pantawid, binibigyan din sila ng Sustainable Livelihood Program. Meron din po kaming Sustainable Livelihood Program. So, ang iba dyan ay meron ng sariling tindahan, sari-sari store. Ang iba naman ay nagkaroon na na business nila, kainan. So, naging maganda naman yung journey nila sa pantawid kasi hindi na sila maka-classify doon sa level na poorest of the poor. So parang umangat sila. So nakaya na nila na mabuhay na wala yung suporta ng pantawid.
Thank you very much sa angat buhay stories na to, Bianca. Listening Julma to our guests this evening, they come from the different sectors. May church, and then you saw from the government itself, and then also from the Academe. They're all sharing a lot of inspiring stories how women can really make a difference in the different sectors. And probably before we go, because we have time constraint, can we ask the parting messages from each one of our guests? What is your parting message to women, most especially in this time of pandemic and encountering the difficulties of this time? Probably we can start with Dr. Fay.
Thank you, Father. Father, this is just going to be very quick. I belong to a women's group which we call Women in National Development. And most of these members have broken the glass ceiling, so to speak. And I'd just like to mention Dr. Gloria Humamil Mercado, for example, as the first woman Navy Commodore in the Reserve Force. General Luz Camacho, the first woman Commodore Brigadier General of the Philippine Navy, who led the Philippine Peace Group to East Timor, and the first woman Navy captain to command the Philippine Navy ship. We also have General Emma Ignacio, the first woman general of the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the first woman pilot of the Philippine Air Force. Locally, I'd like to mention Engineer Florida Pangilinan Nunez, a graduate of the University of Nueva Caceres, awarded as Cebu's 2019 Inspiring Filipina Engineer. We have Edna Salvador Tejada. She has risen. She graduated from UNC as an industrial engineer, now the DTI Provincial Director of CAMSUR. And so what is my parting message? As long as you have a dream and that dream is compelling enough to drive you to action, continue to have that dream. It doesn't diminish you because you are a woman. The example that I have cited here, these are women who has risen to the rank that in this field where usually are dominated by men. We can do it. We have, as long as we have the faith and the courage to do it. And my ending message, Father Jonah, I'd like to quote Catriona Gray's final message as Miss Universe. She said, and I would like to read, to dream, to everyone with a dream, know what your dream is, and it is a valid dream. On your path, you are never denied. You are only redirected. And my own message from my own experience, poverty should not be an obstacle to your dream or to your success. Intelligence will carry you only as far as your faith and courage will go. Intelligence is God-given gift, but faith and courage are something that we develop through experience and encountering people as mentors in our lives. So this is my message to all the women out there. Dream, and the Lord will take care of all the opportunities open up for you if it is God's will for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fay, for that very fiery and courageous message to all the women. Si Miss Bianca Camille, ano yung huling mensahe mo para sa mga kababaihan?
Para po sa mga kababaihan, especially yung mga may mga pinagdadaanan na iba't ibang krisis sa buhay, yung mga nakakaranas ng iba't ibang klase ng pang-aabuso. Sa personal kong experience, gusto kong iparating na huwag nating kalilimutan na that there is an us and that there is an we. May mga tao na pwedeng tumulong sa atin para tayo ay makabangon. May mga institution, may mga organization na handang tumulong sa atin para tayo ay makapagsimula ng panibagong buhay at maipagpatuloy ito. And patuloy po nating palakasin yung ating pananampalataya. Gaano man kahirap yung ating pinagdadaanan or pagdadaanan pa, dapat palaging nandun yung faith and yung paniniwala natin sa ating sarili na tayo ay malakas, na kaya nating lagpasan kahit ano pa mang pagsubok yung dumating sa ating buhay. Hindi yung issue kasi sa women is, at the issue at hand is not about making women stronger. Kasi women are already strong. Ang issue lang is about changing the way we perceive that strength. And that change starts with us, sa ating mga sarili. Thank you po.
Wow. Amazing. I like the parting message of Miss Bianca and Camille. She mentions about the need also to strengthen our faith, and of course to look at how we perceive the strength of women, most especially in our society. Thank you so much, Miss Bianca Camille, for that. And of course, sister, your parting message for everyone. I think you're on mute mode.
Thank you.
Alright.
Gusto ko lang pong sabihin sa lahat po ng ating mga kababaihan at kabataan, lalong-lalo na ang mga nakakaranas ng pang-aabuso, those battered women, the prostituted women, the trafficked women. These are all the women we are working in our different residences and communities. Alalahanin natin na tayong lahat po ay may dangal. Tayong lahat ay may dignidad. Walang maaring makayurak at makawasak nito. Kahit pa man mahirap, magtatagumpay din tayo dahil tayong lahat ay may binigay ng kakayanan ng Diyos at mapanatili natin na itong buhay na mahalagang ito ay magiging mabunga at magiging magsilbi rin sa kapwa nating mga kababaihan. Ang aming foundress nagsabi mismo na ang isang tao ay mahalaga higit kaysa sa mundo. So sana po paniwalain natin ito na tayong lahat ay may dangal at may kakayanan at tayong lahat ay mabuting anak ng Diyos. Maraming salamat.
Thank you for that reminder, sister. Tayong lahat ay may dangalan. What I especially like about her message is that if we weave now the sharing of our guests, Dr. Fay was telling about having dreams and making them come true, while Miss Bianca was also saying that what we need to improve is how we perceive the strength of these women. So for me, when we look at having dreams, we really have to provide the environment for women who have dreams. And here comes sister telling us na lahat tayo may dangal. So we as part of that environment, we have to recognize this dangal in each and everyone.
Yeah, it's all about making everyone aware of this basic dignity that we have. And of course, we can be empowered by starting with that. Start with the consciousness and awareness of this condition, as the philosophers would call it, a condition of possibilities that we have. And there we can harness all the skills that we have and pursue the dream that Dr. Fay was talking about. And so we would like to thank our first three guests for the first part of a webinar. Thank you for gracing this webinar with your presence and with your stories. We will be forever grateful to your very inspiring stories. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, before we proceed to the webinar proper, let's watch a musical performance by Mr. Nino Machika and Miss Angela Andre P. Agtarap.
Look at me, I will never pass for a perfect bride or a perfect daughter. Can it be I'm not meant to play this part? Now I see that if I were truly to be myself, I would break my family's heart. Who is that girl like me, staring straight at me? Why is my
Thank you very much, Nino and Angela, for the wonderful music. We are now proceeding to the second part of our webinar, which is the webinar proper. Keeping in mind that this is a webinar on mission, and particularly we are talking about mission of the church for women and with women. And so for the first part, we have invited the different women who continue to inspire us with their stories and experiences. And this time, we will be listening again to our special guest tonight, the main speaker of this webinar. And probably you can start with this. We can start the second part of this webinar by watching another video. Julma.
In celebration of the 500 years of Christianity, we have a Bicol translation of the song We Give Our Yes. So let's all watch this video.
To lead us with the opening prayer, may we call Sister Sally Baloloy, Secretary to the Chancellor of the Archdiocese of Caceres.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. In all things possible, in your loving care. We are grateful for all the blessings you are pouring upon us, despite of the challenges we are facing. We we are thankful specifically for the wonderful opportunity to meet virtually and spiritually and learn together through the webinar. May your blessings and guidance be upon us through the sharing of knowledge and skills by our resource speakers, facilitators, and moderators. We lift out to you, Lord, all women. They may be open to the opportunities that they have in our society and the church. Enkindle in their hearts the love for sharing the word of God, sharing the light, and praying for all. They may participate in your mission to help other women to become agents of mission. Through the intercession of our Heavenly Mother, the Blessed Virgin Mary, we humbly commit every part of this webinar to you for your greater glory and honor. All this we pray through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Sister. May I now call Father Austin John M. Ortinero of the Caceres Office for Women and Children Protection to give the opening remarks.
Commemorating its 500th anniversary of Christianity, and it all started with 5 ships that circumnavigated the world, one of which is Concepcion. I suppose it was named after Mama Mary. Those brave men and missionaries were carried by a ship named after a great woman, the mother of our Lord. History says, correct me if I am wrong, that among the 5 ships, only one was able to return to Europe. It was the ship Victoria, another name of a woman. However, what is interesting is the lost ship named Concepcion. It was wrecked somewhere and sank deep in the ocean, while some divers say they have found it. Well, it was just fascinating to note that Concepcion did not return, because that lady with that name would have wanted to stay in any missionary land she came into. And indeed, in the Philippines, she stayed and have been loved and honored ever since. Filipinos have always been pueblo amante de Maria, a people in love with Mary. This is one of the reasons why women in our homes have always received our mutual love and care. Nonetheless, we cannot deny that there is still a scarcity in the promotion and continued strengthening of the empowerment and advancement of women. Just to give a concrete example, the Holy See advocates for the empowerment of women. Not more than 2 months ago, in the news headlines, the Holy Father appointed 2 women to 2 Vatican roles that were previously held only by men. One of such appointment is as high as to be able to participate in the Bishop's Synod. More and more, we have started to recognize the needed complementary collaboration of men and women in the workplace, which is also empowering women in every area of life and work. Our vision for the church has women not only as recipients, but also as agents of change and progress in the society and in the church. Pope John Paul II in 1995 wrote in his letter to women, he said, "There is an urgent need to achieve real equality in every area. Equal pay for work, protection for working mothers, fairness in career advancement, equality of spouses with regard to family rights, and recognition of everything that is part of the rights and duties of citizens. This webinar is for our parish priests who, in their daily humble performance of their ministry, are helped enormously by very passionate women volunteers in all different age categories and capacities. This is for husbands, so that they may see the role that their wives could contribute not only to their family, but to the community and to the church. This is most particularly for every woman and their children, so that they may find inspiration from the expertise and stories of these successful women who, in their own way, have significant contribution to the world as ordinary Christians, performing it somehow like missionaries. In this webinar, Mission for and with Women, we are so privileged to have our guests representing women who are leaders in different aspects of life. In the religious circles, in government social units, educators, and most especially with our main guest, a very inspiring and young entrepreneur. Together with the Archbishop, His Grace, Most Reverend Rolando Tirona, and all the organizers, I welcome you then in this conversation, and we are very glad to hear from your comments and suggestions. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, Father Austin, for that wonderful introduction of our webinar. And I sense some resonance in when he mentioned about parish priests, as a lot of collaborators in our parish are women. Indeed, this is one very significant webinar and event for the church for us. So thank you very much for explaining also to us the rationale of this webinar. And so to introduce to us our speaker for tonight, Julma.
Yeah, we would like to invite our audience to send their questions to our Facebook page. Okay, so may I introduce our speaker? She has a master's degree in public administration and a certificate in management leadership and decision science from Harvard Kennedy School in Cambridge, Massachusetts. She is an Edward S. Mason Fellow in Public Policy and Management from the same university. An honorable mention when she earned her Bachelor of Science major in Management Engineering from the Ateneo de Manila University. When she was a De La Salle Philippines consultant of Zero Extreme Poverty 2030 project, she designed and set up the DLSP Anti-Poverty Center. And since July 2018, she is the Executive Director of Restart Microenterprise Incorporated, an organization that provides quick response funds to assist micro-entrepreneurs affected by natural and man-made disasters to restore their livelihood. As Executive Director, she fundraises and builds on existing funds for upcoming disaster-related projects and war rehabilitation in the Philippines. Raised in Naga City, she received her basic education from the Universidad de Santa Isabel, a 153-year-old Catholic institution and the first normal school for women in the country and the Southeast Asia. She is the eldest daughter of Philippine Vice President Leni Robredo and the late Jesse Robredo. But tonight, we'll listen to her in her own right as a woman of faith and action, as a woman responding to the needs of fellow women. So friends, let us welcome our guest speaker, Jessica Marie Aika Herona Robredo. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the very generous introduction. So good evening, everyone. It is a great honor for me to be invited here tonight to talk about mission and women empowerment. I am sure there are many others who are older and who may have more life experience than I do. I feel I am still very young. I think my life story is just really one of the many out there. But what I hope to do in the next 30 minutes or so is to share my life journey or my life story, and probably how in the process of figuring out my life, I learned that I can only become the best version of myself when I enable others to do the same. So, but first, let me introduce myself. I am Aika Robredo. I am the eldest of 3 girls, born and raised in Naga City, Uragun, taga Bulusan Street, Dayangdang. Some of you probably know me as the daughter of my parents, Jess and Lenny. I am 33 years old right now, though at times I feel like I am still 26 or 21 or even 18 or 16. Always hopeful, excited, confused, overwhelmed, and forever in a constant search to find my place under the sun. The importance of having a life mission and a life purpose was unconsciously introduced to me at a very young age, especially growing up with the kind of parents that I have. While I had a very enjoyable childhood, the idea of fun or happiness was always secondary to how can we help? Or could we have done more? Or is there something more that we can do? So sharing all these stories to you all tonight is really just one way for me to give honor to the environment I was blessed enough to have been raised in, and also to express my gratitude to the same environment that allowed me to grow and find myself. At the same time, it is also a reminder of the challenges that lie ahead. I don't think my life story is unusual. I don't think it is special nor extraordinary. If anything, I hope we realize that ours is a never-ending mission, and it is something that is always unique to just us. So I grew up in Naga City. Probably the only thing that was a little different about me was that Papa Jess was the mayor of the city. I was born 6 days before he was elected as Naga City Mayor. He was mayor of Naga for 18 years, which is really most of my childhood. I lived in Naga until I graduated from high school. I am a very proud Isabelina and only moved to Manila when I went to college. But ever since at a young age, I really only saw Papa's work as a profession or a day job. You know how some of my friends, their parents were lawyers, were doctors, were teachers. It just so happened that mine, he was the mayor of the city. My mother was an economics college professor by day, also in USI, and a law student at night. She taught undergraduate econ in USI, and when I was a toddler, I would take the back row seat of her class and pretend I was one of her students too. I grew up idolizing my parents. They were both dedicated. They always seemed so sure of themselves. And to this day, they remain to be my moral compass and the golden standard of the kind of person that I aspire to be. But I always get uncomfortable every time people recognize me as the daughter of my parents. So every personal accomplishment would get diminished, or every minor failure would get highlighted. At 6 years old, when I would get a perfect score for a quiz, people would say it was because I was the mayor's daughter. Or if I got asked to represent the school for a quiz bee or a contest, it was often attributed to being Papa's daughter instead of my own capacity as a student. On the other hand, if I don't perform, they would tell me I should be ashamed because, well, again, I was the mayor's daughter. But it taught me an important lesson early on in life that has proven to be useful until today. Always, always head down, power through, work hard, and let your work speak for itself. It taught me focus. It taught me to care less and listen less to what other people say about me. That I had to drown out the noise, concentrate on doing the work I was set to accomplish. It was a lesson I took to heart and brought with me anywhere. It didn't matter if I disliked what I was doing. That only meant I just needed to work even harder. It also didn't matter if I enjoyed what I was doing. It just meant I needed to be even better at it. The expectation remains the same. Do it well and let your work speak for itself. The second most important thing that was taught to us, to me and my sisters, since we were young, is that we have to look after ourselves and then we have to be self-sufficient. We are all 3 girls. We are all girls in the family. But I never felt like we were weaker. I didn't feel like I was supposed to be different, nor I was supposed to act differently because of my gender. What I do know is that I was supposed to take care of my younger siblings and just really to try to set a good example for them. But there was no limits as to what I can do or how far I can dream. What we were taught of is the importance of discarte. My parents were always around. Their daily constant and steady presence every day was something we were all used to. When we would get home, they would ask us, did you have a test today? Do you have a lot of homework? But they were also never indulgent. They often pushed us to solve our own problems. We were raised to learn to adjust and make do with what was presented in front of us. They would always remind us that the world will not adjust for you. You have to be able to navigate your way through and around, and there has to be another way, a better way of doing things. Be responsible. Do not expect them to rescue you. You are responsible to what you can do and in your own space. With these two important lessons, especially as I was graduating from high school, there also came a big challenge. We were also always told to chart your own course, work hard, and figure out who you want to be in life. And then I wish I can say that I always knew who or what I wanted to become. I dreamt of being as accomplished as my parents, but I just didn't know how at that time. I liked a lot of things. I was into swimming at some point. I played the piano. I'd like to think I was fairly decent in science, was even doing debate at one point. But I was never just passionate and fixated on just one thing. What I did know was that math was a natural inclination for me. While I didn't know yet at that time what I wanted to be, I knew I always liked math. I like the precision. I like how even as you try different ways of solving problems, the correct answer remains the same. So I ended up taking management engineering in Ateneo de Manila, and luckily I got in. It was a very humbling experience for me at that time because it proved that I wasn't really as good in math as I thought I was. At the same time, though, it opened my world to real-world applications and problem solving more than anything I could have imagined, that math was actually really useful everywhere. But all throughout college, life was a constant push and pull in different directions. So in between my finance and accounting and operations research classes, I became heavily involved in a lot of community projects. So I think in the photo, that's when the Sumilo March that's when the Sumilo farmers came to visit Ateneo, and then they marched all the way to Manila. And their problems were overwhelming, and as a student, it made me feel helpless that there wasn't really much I could do. Or would it ever be enough, whatever it is that we would do at that time? People from my course usually end up taking a corporate job after college, and this made me constantly question if I truly was in the right major. Was I becoming a sellout for taking the course that I was taking at that time? Would going this track or being on this track mean a disservice to all the communities I worked with as an undergraduate? And shortly after graduation, and as I was figuring out what to do next, Papa sent me a reassuring email before I was set to join the workforce. He would always tell me about expanding my world and working on myself so that I can be a better service to other people. I think flashed is his email in full, but let me read some parts of it. He said, "Hi Ikes, we did not have the chance to talk. Pareho tayo occupied mag-alaga ng 2 kids during vacation. I am glad we were able to go to UPenn because that is the kind of exposure that might help you work on what you want to do. Do not worry, ipapangutang ko naman ang pang-aral mo kung magma-masters ka. You are fortunate because you have the option to choose what you want to do. So plan it well, galingan mo, work hard, kahit hindi mo gusto yung ginagawa mo, you are still expected to work hard and excel. I just hope that when you work, you will be more enabling. Huwag kang magmadali. While I believe you owe it to where you came from to make a contribution, you will get there more comfortably if you succeed in your own career first. You cannot give what you do not have. Labs, Papa." So Papa was very fond of sending me emails. At that time, I probably saw this as just one of the many things he used to send me. But now that I look back, I realized how much wisdom was in those messages. And for this particular email, there were actually 4. So 1, having the option to choose what you want to do is a privilege. Work hard and give your all, regardless if you like what you're doing or not. Huwag kang magmadali. And last, I just hope that when you work, you will be more enabling. I never fully understood all this until I've held different roles, encountered different people, and took on different tasks in different jobs. But what really stuck to me the most was this: I just hope that when you work, you will be more enabling. As I look back at the different roles I've held, each had a unique opportunity for me to reach out, expand my world, and in the process of finding my place under the sun, I realized that we are never short of chances or opportunities to uplift and empower other people with us. So my first job was in the oil and gas industry. At that time, it was a male-dominated industry. I started out as a management trainee, and I had to rough it out and eventually became a business consultant, which functions like an area manager, where I had to oversee gas station retail operations in 3 cities in Metro Manila. So this was where I developed my discipline, my work ethic, the importance of creating my own systems to make sure that things run efficiently. I was trained to brush up on my management and operations skills. I felt like I needed to catch up with my peers who were much older than me at that time, and they've been in the industry long before I was born. My performance was measured with my ability to meet sales and volume targets. Problematic stations needed to be closed down because this resulted to losses in the company that I was working for. And while on paper, that really just made sense, in person, it is a different story. To have to tell a gas station owner to his or her face that you need to close down his station, it was a lot more difficult, especially after developing good relationships with them and their team. Closing a station would mean losing a source of income. It would also mean loss of jobs for their gas attendants, their cashiers. How would they be able to feed their families? After Papa passed away, I came across an opportunity to work in government and took the chance. So after years of making the conscious effort to chart my own course, I figured that was probably the best time for me to work in government. After his passing, I became less deliberate with life plans and just went with wherever I felt I was being led to. And it actually turned out for the best. So I started as an executive assistant to the secretary at DOTC, Department of Transportation and Communication at that time. And eventually I moved to NDRRMC. So essentially the government agency that handles disaster management. At one point, I was keeping track of bus road accidents, this public consultation on the MRT fire hike, up until our unit in DOTC was deployed to support and help out with Typhoon Yolanda response operations. So I remember we had to call shipping lines and bus lines and ask if there was a way for us to send relief goods from Manila to Leyte and Samar. And it was really exhausting. Government is a thankless job. The only time I went home was to take a bath, change into a new set of clothes, and go back to the operations center and do it all again. But there's one encounter I can't forget. So every day in the operations center, there was this one volunteer who kept going back to help with the repacking of relief goods. His family is in Tacloban, he says. He hasn't heard from them yet, and he was just there waiting for news, just in case we hear his last name or his cousin or his father. He started to become friends with us at the operations center. Every day for 1 week, every single relief pack he put together, he did so carefully, perhaps hoping that one of those would reach his family. Until finally the day came where he received the bad news. His family did not make it. So in government work, it is easy to get caught up in improving policies and processes, in hitting targets and saying we reached 90% of the population. It is easy to forget that behind every statistic is a person who is a parent, a spouse, a child, a sibling, or a friend. There is always a human aspect to the work, and you would only recognize this by working alongside the very same people you try to serve. As I went deeper into disaster work, discussions would start out by strategizing how to encourage local governments to be more typhoon resilient. But on a personal micro level, it really is this. How can we minimize the impact of disaster to the sari-sari store nanays, to our farmers, to our fisher folks? How do we organize private sectors to come together and help with the typhoon response? All my past experiences and lessons prepared me and led me to what I am doing now. I now run an NGO called Restart Microenterprise, or Restart Me. It is a microfinance nonprofit that focuses on post-disaster livelihood recovery. And our goal is to help those affected by typhoons or disasters bounce back by providing them with financial loan assistance. While I wasn't initially sure where I was headed, everything I know and everything I learned, they seem to be pieces of the puzzle that look like, they're starting to come together. And when they did, it gave me a more direct platform to take on a role that allows me to, what Papa used to say, enabling. And I realized that in the process of working on improving myself, it enabled me to help others too, particularly women. It is very humbling for me to do a kind of work that allows me to push for women empowerment in the form of livelihood opportunities. And I can honestly say that my definition of women empowerment has also evolved over the years. I think when you're a little younger, or maybe for a lot of the younger ones, when we say women empowerment, for them it meant being just like men. It meant being strong, being aggressive, being powerful. It meant competing and winning and having it all. Being an empowered woman meant having the loudest voice in the room and commanding everyone's attention. But in my experience, at least, it was a little different. It meant having the ability to empathize, to be open and to always choose kindness. And it also meant going back to the basics. And this is because of one person who taught me by example what women empowerment really means, my Mama Lenny. So Mama has always been the quiet, constant, and steady presence in our lives. She has always been around. She was never attention-seeking, and she easily blended in. She trusted us and let us figure life out on our own, but she was always within a safe distance, never failing to show and express support. Essentially, she became whoever we needed her to be. Growing up, I thought all women were just like her, juggling many hats at the same time. She was teaching during the day while taking care of me. She takes law classes at night. She was a full-time wife to Papa, who was the city mayor at that time. And I didn't realize how difficult all this was until I started to become an adult, where living alone and even taking care of myself felt too much of a chore sometimes. She became my standard on how to manage and compartmentalize different aspects of life without compromising one for the other. And one important lesson from her also was that she took her time. It took her longer to finish law school because she was raising a family, but she did finish. She took the bar exam twice. In her first attempt, I had German measles and was confined to the hospital in between exams. And she rushed home to be with me. Her priorities were always clear. Her life have always had twists and turns with long detours and hardly ever shortcuts, but her priorities were always clear to her. She never made excuses, never wasted opportunities, and always took everything as a blessing and a challenge on how to be always life-giving to the people around her. So everything I know about empowerment or women empowerment, I learned from her. It meant making your own choices. It meant standing on your own 2 feet, making your own decisions without depending or relying on anyone else. It meant being responsible and accountable for the choices that you make. So maybe for some, women empowerment means having a voice. But the kind of empowerment I learned from Mama put kindness and compassion above all else. It meant being always willing to look for a common ground, to look for ways to work together no matter your differences, because a small step towards the right direction is always more important than insisting that you're 100% right every single time. For her, most especially, it meant a clear sense of self, knowing when to take the spotlight and knowing when to step aside or step back so others can shine. It meant knowing when to speak up when others can't, and knowing when to stay quiet, confident that the loudest voice is not always the correct one. That while some circumstances in our society, especially for women, are far from ideal, we should not get disheartened nor discouraged and should instead continue to work hard to make it better. It meant respecting the pace and the timing of your life. That adversities and challenges are not meant to hinder you nor stop you from pursuing your dreams. It meant accepting that we are perhaps always where we are meant to be and that what we are going through are just training us to the next steps or next phases of our lives. Most importantly, it meant trusting and having faith that it will all make sense in the end. In my case, I was very blessed to have been born in an environment that pushed me and gave me space to work on myself, look and choose among the opportunities made available for me. And this luck and gratitude has become a personal mission. How do we create an environment that will allow all women to have the same opportunities and choices like some of us do? In my work in Restart Me Today, most of the members of microfinance institutions are women. I asked a colleague before why this was the case, and he said that women are much better at budgeting. And actually, I didn't quite disagree with him because I've always thought women make good economists. They maximize and translate whatever available resources or inputs they have into goods and outputs that would best suit the family. Some women are breadwinners, some women stay at home, but regardless of what their household roles are, we want to give them an opportunity to earn for themselves. More than the potential additional income to the family, when they earn their own money, they are less dependent on other people, they are less dependent on their husbands, and they would have something for themselves. They can choose to have something for their kids. It is something that they can decide what they want to do with what they have. And one of the most important things I've learned over the years that has been emphasized in my job now is this. Having a choice is a privilege, and not everyone has the same privilege. Some of us are luckier than others because more choices are available to us. So let us not forget those who came before us, who also worked hard so we can have those choices, whether directly or indirectly, whether from family, from friends, from strangers, in big or small gestures. Let us be more deliberate with our choices. And as a way of giving back to the community that provided us with choices and opportunities, let us also work towards enabling other people to have the same kinds of choices that we also have. After all, we are most empowered when we are also empowering. A woman's strength is her ability to adapt to any situation thrown at her. Kahit mahirap, parating kinakaya, kakayanin. I mentioned earlier, Mama has been whoever we needed her to be, and that still remains to be the case. The past year or so, especially in quarantine, we see women juggling everything. Some who are working from home, taking care of their parents who are sick, or taking care of their parents who are pasaway and are insisting to go out. Countless times I heard my friends complain about how difficult it is to raise their parents. Images of my own mother in her pambahay in a Zoom call, sometimes chopping onions and garlic, preparing for dinner. Right after lunch, she has meetings the whole day, but she wanted to make sure we have food ready by the time we eat dinner. In some meetings, the background noise of other women or their children doing homework at home. And when they forget to unmute, you sometimes hear them tutoring their kids for school. All this, and all because they become women, they become people who we need them to be. Mother, daughter, sister. It is innate for women to be enabling, and it is important to empower them because the most underrated but best form of empowerment that's innate to women is they enable other people to become the best versions of themselves. So thank you for listening and thank you for having me tonight. Diyos marhay na banggi po sa Indogabos.
Thank you for that, Miss Aika. Father, you were saying.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story that we have listened to, and it's coming from you, Aika, yourself, it's another perspective. You know, when based on what what I've heard, there's always this opportunity for everyone, and some are luckier than others. Some have more options than others, and it's how we make good of these options that we have in life, right? So
Yes, exactly. That's what I really liked about what she shared. She recognized that she has had these opportunities, she had privileges not available to some. And now that in recognition, she is responding and using those opportunities that she's had to enable other people as well.
I like the word that Aika used a while ago, enabling. After experiencing all these things, after learning all the lessons in life, then you in turn will go out to a mission, and we call it a mission from the church parlance, by enabling others. And so, most especially and most concretely on the Restart Me that you are now leading, Aika, can you share more of your experiences on Restart ME or Restart Me that that has contributed in enabling people, most especially women, in claiming back once again their opportunity to develop their talents, their skills, and to survive, most especially this pandemic.
Yes. Good evening, Father, and good evening again, everyone. So with Restart Me, we usually come in right after a disaster. So before, this was usually after typhoons. And then when the Marawi siege happened, we consider the Marawi siege as a kind of man-made disaster. And now we have COVID-19. So especially with COVID-19, I think if anything, it exposed to me and my colleagues in Restart Me how resilient and how creative women are. So what we usually do is we extend financial loan assistance that usually functions as like a startup capital for them. Some people use it to buy inventory to their sari stores just so they can jumpstart their business. But I think one of our key learnings, especially from the pandemic, is that when they are provided with some resources, like we have stories of women who initially were selling clothes, and then later on we found out she started selling alcohol, she started selling hand sanitizers, and then her sari store was performing much better after the pandemic than before. So I think for us it really is a lesson that given the resources and given the tool, and then sometimes we also need to guide them, they have the ability to transform whatever they have into something that would benefit them and their family. And some of our microfinance members actually have a preference to just lending out loans to women, because they said that women are more diligent in paying back loans, and at the same time, they do the household budget. They are more creative in thinking of more ways to maximize the resources that they have. And at the same time, they're also a little bit more responsible. So one of the problems that we had was that when we would loan out financial assistance, instead of using it for livelihood, they use it for basic necessities. And our experience is, at least the women that we've worked with, they have the more discipline to set aside that, this funds that I have now, these are for food, etc. But this particular grant that we got from Restart Me or from the MFIs, I should be able to grow it so that things will be better for me and my family.
Yeah, I like what you said about the financial interventions in times of crisis, especially as you were mentioning, because this actually echoes the discussion earlier where Sister Arabella, where Miss Bianca and President Fay all mentioned that there is really a need for women to be self-reliant financially as well. And so here we can see, Father, the consistency that in order for women to be empowered, to be enabled, there is a need as well to equip them with financial literacy. And of course, Together with that is the opportunity to, to have their own livelihood to help support the family. I have a question. I'm sorry?
Yeah. And I think especially now with the pandemic, it also challenges us to be a little bit more creative. For example, like right now, everyone probably has a Facebook account. So what we're working on with our members right now is how can they maximize the digital space in improving their livelihood. So one of the Marawi experience is some of them produced like a prototype of some like bed sheets and blankets, and then they trial tested and posted the design on Facebook, and then it got hits, and then etc. So I think with the changing times, it also becomes a responsibility and a challenge for us to sort of bring them along with us as we are in the digital world right now, so that they can also maximize the same space that the rest of us are enjoying.
There is a question here from our audience. May I just read from Nenette Danyo. Was there a time that you were pressured to follow in the footsteps of your parents, and how do you handle it?
Not pressure, not from the family. I think at this time we've already mastered filtering out or at least identifying which voices or which advices that we should really listen to and then pay attention to. But at least from the family, we were always encouraged to go our own paths. And I think that may be one of the major reasons as well why I ended up working in the private sector first. I wanted to be in a space where both my parents weren't there, just because it was something that won't be identified with them, I guess. But I think if you let life happen, and if you let life take its course, I did end up working in government anyway, although still probably not the same path that both of them are in. But no pressure from the family, and no, I don't know, or I refuse to let myself be pressured from those outside the family, I think. But yeah, we've been always encouraged to chart our own course, to figure out what we want to do in life. The only condition and the only premise is that we have to excel in whatever field it is that we find ourselves in.
So we will be watching out for that time that you make that risk, that decision. Meanwhile, we will be hearing from a response from another woman. We would like to call a student from UPLB, from the engineering department. Please welcome Ms. Clarice Anagaw.
Good evening po sa Gabos. I am Klang, and I would like to personally thank Ms. Aika for that wonderful webinar that she delivered a while ago. So upon hearing her talk, one of the things na tumatak sa akin about sa pagiging babae, about dun sa women empowerment na pinopoint out niya, is yung thought na when you help other people, always bear in mind na dapat matulungan mo silang mag-grow, not only as a person, but more than that. Lagi niyang pinopoint out kanina na natutunan niya sa parents niya na dapat kapag mag-reach out sa ibang people, dapat always bear in mind yung growth na makukuha ng isang person. Huwag yung growth lang bilang ikaw, kundi matulungan mo rin silang mag-grow pa doon. And isa yun sa mga bagay na tumatak sa akin kasi syempre bilang part ng youth sector, isang challenge yun sa atin na isipin din yung kapakanan ng ibang tao, hindi lang yung kapakanan natin, hindi lang yung ikauunlad natin, kundi pati na rin ng ibang tao. And right now, na we're in a pandemic, maraming tao, maraming government officials na ang iniisip lang is yung sarili nila. And as part of the youth sector, bilang isang babae, challenge yun sa atin, na isipin din yung kapakanan ng ibang tao. Huwag tayong maging selfish, bagkus tulungan natin silang mag-grow pa. And dagdag na rin po dito, no, makikita natin na right now, maraming problemang kinakaharap ang mga kababaihan. Isa na lamang dito is yung violence against women and children na habang papalala yung pandemic, papalala din yung pasismo na nararanasan ng ating bansa. So, as a result, marami ding mga kababaihan ang patuloy na inaabuso kahit na nasa loob lamang ng kanilang mga tahanan. So, challenge ito sa atin bilang mga mamamayan na tulungan sila na labanan itong mga pang-aabusong ito. And tayong mga nasa youth sector, meron tayong knowledge din, no, na mas mag-ingay, mas paigtingin yung problems na kinakaharap nila. And since meron tayong kakayahan na mas magpaingay pa, dapat matcha-challenge din tayo na tulungan din sila na i-voice out din yung mga rights nila. Itulungan sila na makawala doon sa kadenang nakagapos sa kanila. So, sobrang thankful po ako dun sa talk na binigay ni Miss Aika dahil pinoint out niya talaga yung role ng kababaihan na hindi lamang para sa sarili, kundi yung role para makatulong din sa iba pang tao. And with that, challenge ito sa ating lahat na mas magtulungan ngayon. Mas kailangan nating magtulungan ngayong pandemic. Dahil sino pa ba yung tutulong sa atin kundi yung sarili natin? And kailangan din natin na tulungan pa yung ibang tao para sabay-sabay nating malampasan tong challenge ng kinakaharap natin ngayon. Para matapos din natin yung mga problemang kaakibat ng pandemic. And ayun po, thank you po ng marami, Miss Aika, for that wonderful webinar that you delivered to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Diyos mabalos, Diyos maray na banggi. Tama yung sinabi niya. And I think, if anything, that should emphasize that we speak up for those who can't. Tingin ko yun yung important role na halimbawa tayo, we are lucky enough that we have the confidence to speak up and to do our work. But we should always be mindful of those who are not as lucky, and while they still can't, parang responsibility natin to represent them.
May I also call Attorney Antoinette Mahelia Sumayaw Nacor, a member of the Sonta Club of Naga and Camarines Sur, for her response.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Ms. Aika. Thank you very much for sharing with us your very unique and inspiring life story. And I just can feel how difficult and challenging your life was, especially your childhood, growing up with parents like Mayor Jess and VP Lenny. And I am also inspired that despite your very young age, you have already experienced being in the different fields, like in the private sector, in the government, and now you are into helping people, especially those who are experiencing difficulty after being victims of calamities. Now, I can't help but to relate myself with what you have just shared, the busy schedules of your parents, and always likewise to your experiences being as a growing kid with a busy schedule also. Like myself, I would also like to share that I also wear different hats. Not only that, I am a lawyer, I am also a wife, I am a mother, I am also a member of different organizations, and the most recent one that I've joined in is now the Sonta Club of Naga and Camarines Sur, which is really into empowering women. Now, I would just like to share that even as a mother and as a wife, I know I am empowered and I can inspire others with what they can see from me, because I would like to share that me and my husband, he is also a lawyer. He was previously the IBP president of Naga City and Camarines Sur. So he is a very busy man. So, but despite his busy schedules, I am just there to support him, and I would take over his role to our kids. We have 3 kids, and 2 of whom have special needs. Our eldest has autism, while the youngest has Cornelia de Lang syndrome. And of course, it's so difficult and very much challenging raising kids like them. And we also have 1 normal child, whom we also experience some challenging episodes. Now, other parents would shy away or maybe would be ashamed of their parents, but we do not. We would inspire them, we would motivate them, we put them into therapies and other things that would help them, and help other parents as well who have similar kids, so that these kids would also be functional and productive someday. And in that manner, I know, as they can see me, as I am so supportive with my children, in that manner, I know I am empowering other women also who are afraid and maybe shy or in denial of accepting their children. And likewise, as a lawyer, always appearing in family court, I have my clients who are victims of rape, child abuse, and violence against women. And not only that, I am their lawyer, I would also help them to overcome and encourage them to be strong and not just to be afraid or to be hesitant. I know in that manner they would get strength to get whatever justice they want to get through my help. Okay. Now, also as a Sonshan, I am so proud to belong to this group of women who are into empowering women. Right now also, during these recent calamities, we have been into also giving reliefs to not only to women, but also to families who have been affected by this COVID pandemic and the different typhoons that visited Bicol region. We have been giving relief not only in Naga City, but likewise in other places. We even went as far as Tiwi, also in Catanduanes, and in such other areas. So in Zonta, it is not only the giving of reliefs, but as I said, we also empower women. Aside from giving help, we also educate them. Some of us would give lectures so that women would know their rights and would fight for what they really ought to have. So that's all. Thank you very much, Ms. Aika, and your story is really very inspiring. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, your sharing actually reminds me of stories I would hear from my mama before, because when she was a Saligan lawyer, that's usually the conversations we would have over lunch. She would tell us about a client, sometimes an abused wife. It would reach to a point where the wife would be willing to separate from the husband, but last minute would go back to him. And she always emphasized that she needs to raise her kids. She has to take care of a lot of other things. If she is able to earn for herself and raise her own family, then she would probably not be trapped in the situation as she is at that time. So thank you, ma'am, for sharing.
Thank you very much, Attorney Antoinette, Ms. Aika. It has been a splendid night of sharing stories, sharing experiences about women leading fellow women, women helping another women, and women leading the society in different aspects. So To thank everyone who participated in this for tonight's webinar, may we call now the Archbishop of Caceres, Most Reverend Rolando Tria Terona, OCD. Apo. Good evening, Archbishop.
Good evening, Francis. Father Francis, hello, Julma. Good evening po sa mga nanonood sa atin na nakikisa sa atin napakagandang webinar on mission for women and with women. Yung po mga speakers nating lahat talagang they're full of experiences, no? And they spoke not from their mind but from their hearts. Talagang mga down to earth sila. E naalala ko tuloy yung personal sharing ni Aika, marami siyang pinagdaanan. Naalala ko rin sa sarili ko, wala kami magkakapatid eh. So 5 babae, surrounded kami ng women. Ako ang bunso, you know. Eh, yung mga kapatid ko mga babae, matatalino, lahat sila may medalya. Kaming 3 lalaki, wala kaming medalya. Ako lang ang may medalya sa mga lalaki nung college. I'm the only one who received a medal. Ang medalya ko, ROTC. Ganun ako kasi mga dinisiplina ako ng mga kapatid ko. When I heard all these speakers, si Aika, by the way, if I may ask Aika, your name is Jessica Marie. How come Aika ang nickname mo?
So, Jessica po is from Jessie, Marie is from Maria Leonor. Pero I think the backstory is para iba naman sa Jessie yung nickname ko. So, the ICA of Jessica, they changed the spelling to AIKA. Okay. And then it became Aika.
Yan ang talaga down to earth, di ba? Creativity, no? So, ang ating sister, si Arabella, then si Mrs. Bianca Armenal, and si Dr. Fay. You know, having heard all of you, all I could say is, wow! Wow! WOW, witnesses on women. Witnesses of women. Yan talaga ang mga kababaihan sa panahon natin. But the difference is this, and it is a very big difference. Hindi lang sila mga witnesses. They are witnesses with puso. Witnesses with the heart. Ano ibig sabihin niyan? Witnesses on women with puso. Yung P, they're witnesses that women have power. Power. Hindi yung power to dominate, but is power in flowing from their belief in themselves. Doon sila humuhugot ng lakas, no? Na naniniwala sila sa kanilang sarili bilang kababaihan. Eh, importante yan. Pag hindi ka naniniwala sa iyong sarili, mahina ka. No? So, yun ang unang P, yung puso. Witnesses with puso. They have power flowing from their belief in themselves. Yung yun naman, they have unlimited dreams. Ang ganda ng mga sharing nila, no? Talagang unlimited dreams. Very daring sila. Nakakatuwa, iba't ibang karanasan, no? Pero meron silang focus. And they say, it is good to dream provided your eyes are open. Because if you dream with your eyes closed, wala kang patutunguhan. Pero lahat sila sa kanilang sharing, nangarap sila, pero gising. No? And unlimited. No? Para bang mga ibon na lumilipad sa malawak na himpapawid na may patutunguhan. Yung S sa puso, witnesses with puso, S, consciously or explicitly, yung iba binanggit, yung iba implicit. Pero nandun yun eh. Ano yun? That spirituality matters. Spirituality matters. I've been hearing the word from all the speakers, faith, no? Prayer, belief in God. In other words, para maging witness ka na may puso, dapat merong lugar ang spirituality. And spirituality is very important in our life. Kaya nga yung spirituality, sabi nga, yan ang parang timon ng buhay natin. That is our faith. And finally, yung witnesses with puso, yung O, well, I guess it is not it's unending. So we need to say yung onwards. Onwards, forward. Wala nang atrasan yan because they've discovered themselves, they believe in themselves, they have unlimited dreams, and they're pushed and impelled by the Spirit. They have nowhere to go but forward or onwards. At maganda yung sinabi ni Aika sa kanila, sa kababaihan o sa experience niya, yung onwards sa buhay, hindi yung onwards para sa iyong sarili, kundi onwards para sa kapakanan at kabutihan ng sambayanan ng iyong kasama. No? Kaya nga to summarize, as I said, wow, these are witnesses on women with puso, power, no? Unlimited dreams, spirituality, and moving onwards. So the logical conclusion is, no wonder they are what? Inspirations. You can never inspire others kung wala kang puso, kung wala kang daring, at kung of course wala kang skills. No? Kaya to all of you speakers, I can say, wow, ang gagaling ninyo. You touch our hearts, you open our eyes, and certainly you give us hope na as long as there are women like you, ano man ang pagdaanan natin, may kinabukasan, may magandang bukas pa tayong lahat. So to all of you, maraming salamat sa inyong napakagandang sharing, and I can only say and pray that may God bless you at all times. Always give you that energy to inspire others and always move forward because the Lord is with us. Marami pong salamat sa inyo. At ngayon ipagkakalob ko ang aking blessing. Salamat din sa ating sa MC, si Julma at si Francis. Sa ating mga reactors, talagang matitibay ang reactors natin. Ha? Matitibay. Of course, you're nag-entertain sa atin. Okay? So let's just bow our heads for the blessing. Moved by the Spirit and inspired by our Blessed Mother, we seek the Lord's blessing upon us. The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
And may Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Diyos babalos sa Dunggabos.
Diyos maray na banggi po sa Saindo. Thank you, Archbishop.
This has been brought to you by the Archdiocese of Caceres through the Archdiocesan Office for Mission. Thank you for joining us. Join us again for the next webinar.
Thank you so much.
May we watch the video of our closing song? I think the technical team would not like to close the webinar yet.
Mukhang kakanta muna si Julma.
Are we ready now?
Okay.
Okay. So thank you again, everyone. Join us for the next webinar we will be announcing in the days to come.
Good evening.
We forgot to thank our director, mission director, Father Jerome.
Our director, Father Jerome Pelayo, is here, is also working as the cameraman.
And of course, the CCCom and our live stream crew. Thank you so much.
Let us watch the video of Mina Pasorog sa imo. We are in suspense. Or do we ask Father Francis to sing?
Surog sa imo ang maluya sa daga, daing lawog, daing tingog sa kamot kan makusog. Inapasurog sa imo